Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will show you how to make this beautiful bustier. And before we start with the tutorial, I will show you some of the products that I used. So to start with, we will need some lacing cord or band. Then over here I have the foam for the cups, and you will find the link in the description box. And here is the band to cover the zigzag stitch on the cups. Then we have the bias tape. I use 9 and 18 millimeter bias tape, or if you want to, you can make your own. And then you will need bias tape makers, as you see here. And this is the lining fabric. I use this fabric for the cups and for the eyelet panel. And if you're using thin lining fabric as I do, you should interface those details. And then we have the mesh. This is the mesh that I used both for the sleeves and for the bustier. And you will also find the link in the description box. As you can see, it doesn't. And please make sure that the mesh that you will use for this project is not stretchy at any directions. And this is the underwire for the cups and the eyelets. So I start with folding the fabric in half, putting the paper pattern on, pinning it on, and then cutting the details out. And now I'm pinning together the bustier details, and please keep in mind that the seam allowance should be on the right side of the garment. And then sew them together with a straight stitch at 1 centimeter from the edge. And then turn the seam allowance to one side and then understitch at 1 to 2 millimeters from the seam. Cut down the seam allowance as close as you can to the seam. You should sew together the mesh and the lining eyelet panel, and then fold it in the middle and then press. And now pin that eyelet panel onto the bustier, and also here the seam allowance on the right side of the garment. And after you've sewn them together, repeat the step with the understitching at 1 to 2 millimeters from the edge, and then cut down the seam allowance. And now it's time to place the bias tape. So take the 9 millimeter bias tape and put it over those stitches, and make the stitch at 1 millimeter from the edge of the bias tape. So first on one side and then the other side. And do this step over all of the seams on the bustier. And right here I have the 18th millimeter bias tape. So I fold it in the middle and then press it. And now take that 18mm bias tape, put the eyelet panel edge inside, and then make straight stitch at 1mm from the edge of the bias tape. Take another piece of the 18mm bias tape and then cut the edge, and then fold those edges inside of the bias tape, and then I would recommend you to hand stitch the beginning of the bias tape. So you put in the top of the bustier inside of the bias tape, and then hand stitch that edge. You do not have to hand stitch all of the bias tape, but just that edge. So this is how it should look like. And now you can go to the machine and machine stitch that bias tape on. As you can see, you do not have to fold those edges in where the cup meets the bias tape. So you should sew on the bias tape at all of the top, so even the middle and the other side also. And then you can take the boning and cut it 1.5 centimeters shorter that the boning channel is, and then put the boning inside. And after you've put in the boning, you should repeat the same step for the bottom of the garment as you did for the top. So 18mm bias tape, turn in the corners and then sew it on. And right here I'm measuring where I will put my eyelets. I usually put 4 to 5 eyelets on each side. And please follow the instructions for your eyelets of your choice, because those instructions can be different. That is why I will not give you any instructions on how to install them. You have to check on the box of your eyelets. And if you, like me, will use thin lining fabric, you may have to interface it. Just take a fabric, take the interfacing and press them together. And then you need to cut out all of the cup pieces. And then cut out the mesh pieces, the cup pieces in mesh, and then sew those details together. So sew together the mesh fabric and the lining and sew them together at 5mm from the edge, and then pin together the side and the center cup pieces. And before you sew on the upper cup, you have to press that seam open. So press those details together, sew on the upper cup, and then repeat the step where you press the seam open. So now you have to take the paper pattern and then cut down the seam allowance and leave the seam allowance only on the sides of the cup, as you can see here. So place those details on foam and then cut those details out. And this is how it should look like. So start with connecting together the side and the center cup pieces, and connect them with a zigzag stitch, and then connect the upper cup also. If you want to hide that zigzag stitch, you can put on some band or elastic on it. But this step is optional. If you don't want to, you don't have to do this. And this is how it should look like. So this is the wrong side and this is the right side. So now you have to pin together the right side of the foam and the cup facing each other, and pin them together on the top of the cup. And now sew them together at 5 millimeters from the edge. So the seam allowance should be 5 millimeters. And now turn the seam allowance towards the foam cup, as you can see here, and then understitch at 1 to 2 millimeters from the seam. And now you have to cut down that seam allowance as close as you can to the seam, and then you have to press the cup. Pin together the foam cup and the cup at the bottom, and then sew them together at 1 to 2 millimeters from that edge. Cut down the fabric excesses if you will have some. And now connect the cups with the bustier. So start at one side of the cup and then connect the other, and then the center of the cup, and after that you can connect all around the cup. So sew the pieces together with 1 centimeter seam allowance. And now you have to cut down that seam allowance to 3 to 4 millimeters. And now take another 18 millimeter bias tape, and it should also be folded. Then put that seam allowance inside and make sure to have some extra at the ends. So you can see here I'm putting around 2 centimeters there, and then hand stitch that bias tape all around that seam allowance. Now machine stitch that seam allowance on and go as far as 1 millimeter from the bias tape edge. So stitch only on the cup, on the seam allowance of the cup. Should look like this. And now turn the corner inside and then hand stitch the bias tape on once again. And now make another stitch on that bias tape from the other side at 1 millimeter from the edge, but leave around 2 centimeters. When you will come to the end of that cup, do not stitch on 2 centimeters from the edge. So now put in the underwire, and soon you will see why you do not have to stitch all the way up. So I'm cutting down that bias tape and then turning that corner inside. And now hand stitch the rest of that stitch. And go to the sewing machine and complete that stitch, as you can see right here. And now it's time for the sleeve. So take a piece of fabric that is 120 centimeters and 120 centimeters, and then fold it once and then once again in the middle, and then pin on the pattern and then cut it out. So when you're finished, you should get a circle. And now you should make a straight stitch all the way around and do this step for the long edge of that circle. And now take one of the threads and pull on it. So this way you will create ruffles on one side, on that long side. And you should pull on the thread until you get the same length of this circle as the smaller circle is. So now when those circles are the same length, you should pin those sides together and then sew them together with a straight machine stitch. And then fold that circle in half and then sew those sides together. You should cut down the seam allowance because we will add a elastic band over it, so it will not create thickness. So now take the elastic band and then pin it on at the beginning and the end. And then start to pull on the elastic band and then put that seam allowance inside. And now sew the elastic band onto that seam allowance. And now to the last step. You should connect the sleeves with the bustier. So starting point is where the cup ends, and you can do this step as I did, hand stitch it, or at the machine, it's up to you. And the other side of the sleeve, I'm connecting it between detail 3 and detail 4, but you should try the top on and see how it's more comfortable for you. And the bustier is now done. And if you will get any questions, please let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please like it, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.